Hi guys, welcome to a new video. So I know I kind of announced on my channel that I was going to start this series quite a long time ago, and I only got round to errors so far, and it's been quite a long time, so sorry about that, and my lack of organisation. But the series I'm talking about is the sun and moon in each sign, and the differences between the sign when it's the sun that's in that sign versus when it's the moon in that sign. I feel like I explained that in a really complicated way for some reason when it's such a simple thing to explain, but oh well. Yeah, so I've only done errors so far for this series, so obviously today we're moving on to Taurus, the next sign in the list. So this video is going to be difference between the moon in Taurus versus the sun in Taurus in someone's chart, because even though they are the same sign, each planet obviously has their own sort of um, feel, if you like, their own sort of personality traits in a way. Um, or more accurately, I guess you could say just an energy. Each planet has their own standalone energy, and then that will be altered and filtered through the sign that it's currently transiting. So the moon has its own natural energy, and then it will be edited, if you like, altered based on what sign it's currently transiting. So the personality traits of the sign mix with the energy that the moon already has in order to form the end result. So each planet, even in the same sign, each planet does change how the sign is expressed to a certain extent. So Taurus then. So opposite to Aries, actually, the moon is a lot more comfortable in the sign of Taurus than the sun is. With Aries, Aries actually exalts the sun, strengthens it, in other words. So the sun is happier and more comfortable in the sign of Aries than the moon is. And with Taurus, it's the other way around. Taurus actually exalts the moon. So Taurus strengthens the moon's energy. So the moon in Taurus is actually a very good fit and a really comfortable placement. So for the sign of Taurus, the sign suits more comfortably when it's the sun versus no, the moon, sorry, versus the sun. So the Taurus sun, there's a little bit more tension because it's not as comfortable of a fit for the sun to be in Taurus as it is for the moon to be in Taurus. So the Taurus sun, now obviously naturally the sun in any sign is going to be more prominent and obvious on the outside to other people than the moon would be in any sign, because the moon, as I said before multiple times, the moon is a subconscious energy, and it's very, even if it's not subconscious completely, it's always very private. And you don't show off many of the traits of your moon unless your moon and sun happen to be in the same signs in your chart. You will not show your moon sign to other people half as much as you will your sun, because your sun is your ego, your identity, self-identity and personality, so it's more obvious to others. So a Taurus sun is going to be more obvious to other people than a Taurus moon. I would say that the Taurus sun is not as grounded to earth as the Taurus moon, because the sun also, it's a bit more, I don't want to say superficial, but I do want to kind of say the sun is more of a surface level and the moon's more deeper beneath the surface of your personality, if that makes sense. So the Taurus sun is a bit more superficial. The Taurus sun's a bit more like the traits of the sign are kind of quite heavily modified by the sun transiting it, because the sun on its own has an energy type which is very strong and fiery, because obviously the sun rules Leo, so it's quite an intense planet. So when it's transiting any sign, it does heavily alter the sign's natural personality traits, whereas the moon, it's the ruler of Cancer, obviously, so the moon's a lot more subtle and not as like over the top or dramatic. So the natural personality traits of the sign are altered less when the moon transits it. So the moon is kind of a more pure representation, more of a true representation of the sign's personality traits, whereas the sun is more of a more heavily modified version of the sign's personality traits. So yeah, the purest form of the energy of each sign is through the moon's expression. So the Taurus moon is more grounded than the Taurus sun. The Taurus sun is a a lot more aggressive, actually. I would say that the Taurus Sun is probably like the quintessential bull in a china shop, where a lot of people give Taurus the reputation, actually, of being quite hot-headed and quick to anger, whereas actually I think the opposite, but a lot of people do think Taurus is quite hot-headed, and the reason I think that is that the Taurus Sun is a bit more like hot-headed than the Moon, definitely. Um, so yeah, the quintessential bull in a china shop, where it's an angry bull that's charging at you, horns first. That sort of is a lot more representative of the Taurus Sun. The Taurus Moon is more like the female cow. They're like a peaceful cow. And they don't charge, they don't have horns, they're a lot more peaceful. So the Taurus Moon is like this very deep inner sense of groundedness and stable sort of energy and a very practical outlook on life. It's very deeply felt and internal, almost completely subconscious, and because that's what the moon is. And yeah, it's more of a pure representation of Taurus energy when it's the moon. The Taurus Sun is a bit more aggressive, it's more outwards, because the sun also projects the energy outwards, and the moon kind of casts the energy inward. Like the moon is an inwardly flowing energy, which is kind of held inside, whereas the sun is an outward energy, where you throw it out to the outside world, like an initiatory sort of energy, and the moon is more of a reactive, private, inwardly tugging energy, versus the sun is an outwardly reaching energy. So Taurus Sun is more projected outward. So basically, just like the moon and sun in general, really, for any sign transit, the sun is kind of what you are striving to become in your lifetime, or what your life lessons are, I guess you could say. And the moon is kind of what you're already born with naturally. So the traits of the moon are what you kind of naturally are. You don't need to work on developing them because you already have them on a very deep internal level. The sun is more like you want to actively and consciously, keyword consciously, become the traits that are associated with your sun, because it's your personal self-identity that you want to develop throughout your life, like keep on developing more and more throughout your life. So because of that, it is more, you have to consciously act like your sun, and develop those traits throughout your life more and more as you live your life. But the moon, you already naturally have these traits, and you don't need to work hard to show them or display them or feel them, because they're already there. And it is more like the sun's more of a doing energy, and the moon is more of a feeling energy and a being energy. Like the moon just exists as its sign, whereas the sun actively strives to be its sign. So the Taurus Sun is a bit less grounded, it's a bit more shallow, and it's projected more outwardly, it's more aggressive. The Taurus Sun is not as emotional, and it's a bit more obviously stubborn. Now, we all know that Tauruses can be very, very stubborn, and like resist change. Now, the Taurus moon's going to feel these traits more strongly, because it's the moon, but it's not going to be expressed as obviously on the outside. So the Taurus Sun is going to look to other people to be more strong-willed and stubborn, and avoidant of change, more than the moon. Like people are going to see that in a more obvious fashion with the Taurus Sun, but the Taurus Moon, it will probably feel that more deeply as an inner need, but it will be less obvious on the outside. It won't be expressed on the outside as much as it would with the Sun. So it's like the Taurus Sun is kind of like they appear to be more. Perhaps they appear to be more stable, but they also appear to be more security based and more stubborn. And I also feel like the Taurus moon is naturally more stubborn, but because it's the moon, they reserve that stubbornness for the things that are really important to them. Whereas the Taurus sun is kind of just stubborn about everything, because the sun also wants to, develop the traits of the sign it's transiting and display them outwardly. So they kind of have a need to almost show the traits to as many people as possible of the sign that they're transiting. So the sun in Taurus, they're going to kind of almost want to display all of the Taurus traits, because that is how that's what their ego's tied up with, that's what their self-identity is tied up with. But the Taurus moon doesn't have this want to show that to the world. So they reserve their stubbornness for the things that are really close to their heart and really important to them emotionally and all that. Whereas the Taurus Sun will be more obvious about showing this all the time and more frequently. Um, Also, I would say that the Taurus moon, now obviously Taurus is the sign, as a sign, sorry, is ruled by Venus. So Venus is about balance, harmony, beauty, all of these things. However, and sensuality. However, I would say that the Taurus Sun is more naturally sort of charming, but the Taurus moon has a natural sort of beauty to them. It's more under wraps because it is the moon, but the Taurus moon has this sort of natural, very on a deep level, sort of beauty and sensuality and all of this. The Taurus sun has more of a charming outward sort of representation of this Venus charm, but also the Taurus sun kind of actively wants to appear to be charming and friendly and displaying all these Venus attributes, but the moon doesn't actively display them because it just has them naturally. So the moon actually exudes a sensorial, peace loving aura because of Venus, but the sun kind of displays it actively and tries to keep up this image, this reputation, if you like, of being Venusian and having Venus traits because Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus. So the Taurus sun wants to show these traits. They want to appear, conflict avoidant and peaceful to a degree, although their stubbornness can sometimes get in the way of that peace loving image. But when they're untroubled, they are actually quite peaceful because of the Venus thing. So the sun kind of wants to appear that way. So the sun is actively trying to look to other people to be having these Venus traits and be charming and looking physically attractive and all of this. But the Taurus moon, they just naturally have it. It's more natural to the Taurus moon to have this. So, and it's more deeper felt and more extreme. So the Taurus moon just has a natural sensorial, peace loving, gentle sort of aura from Venus. And it's more kind of just natural. It's not forced, it's just there all the time without them having to try. Whereas the sun, it's more aggressive in the sense that they're aggressively putting out into the world this reputation of being peace loving. But the Taurus moon it just has it naturally without them even having to try or think about their reputation in that way. It just naturally happens. It's naturally there. So yeah, the Taurus moon is more stable than the Taurus sun. The Taurus moon is probably more considerate of other people's emotions, and it's a bit gentler, as I said earlier. It's like the Taurus moon basically is a takeaway. The Taurus moon is like the peaceful cow, and the Taurus sun is more like the quintessential bull in a china shop, like the aggressive masculine cow, the bull, with the horns that charges at you. And then, yeah, the moon is just more like the female cow. It's peaceful, it's just in the field, relaxing, it doesn't charge at you. So that's basically the fundamental difference, I'd say, between having the sun versus the moon in Taurus. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some sense out of it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.